Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Open the Book. Now, as you can see, we are in a very far away place. We are by the Sea of Galilee today. I'm really hoping that Zoom's not going to freeze because it's been a little bit dodgy for the last few minutes. So I'm really hoping this is going to work okay, and you'll be able to see us. If you remember last week's story, Jesus was baptized in the river. And John said that Jesus was someone very special. Well, today we're going to open the book and we're going to read about Jesus's special friends. Because shortly after his baptism, Jesus wanted to get some people to help him to do his very important job. So we're going to open the book and we're going to read Jesus's special friends. Jesus grew up in a place called Galilee, where there was a large and beautiful lake, and it was there that he began the work God gave him to do.
God is like a king,
He told the people,
and he wants all of you to be part of his kingdom, to love him and to love one another.
People liked to hear Jesus talk. In fact, one morning a crowd was so huge that Jesus was nearly pushed into the sea.
Oh, excuse me,
Jesus asked a fisherman.
could I borrow your boat for a while?
The fisherman's name was Peter.
Of course.
He said,
It's doing me no good. I was out all night and didn't catch a thing.
Jesus climbed into the boat. Peter rowed it a little way from shore, and from there Jesus talked to the crowd. When he'd finished, Jesus sent the people home. Then he turned to Peter.
Let us go out a little bit further. I'd like to
whispered.
catch some fish.
Peter tossed back his head and laughed.
I told you. My men and I were out all night. We caught nothing.
Jesus didn't say a word. He just smiled and looked across the lake.
All right,
Peter sighed.
if that's what you want.
So Peter sailed to the deepest part of the lake. Then he dropped his fishing nets over the side. In no time at all, the net started pulling and jerking and stretching, and it was all Peter could do to keep the boat from tipping over.
Help!
Peter called to some friends nearby.
Help me, please.
And they rowed to him as fast as they could. Then all together, the men pulled on the nets and the fish came tumbling and slapping onto the decks of both boats, red fish and blue fish, and not just one or two fish, so many in fact that the boats would have sunk had the fishermen not rowed quickly back to shore. Peter looked at the fish. He looked at his friends. Then Peter looked at Jesus and fell to his knees, trembling.
Only God or somebody full of his power could do that.
Peter said.
And why would someone like that want to go fishing with the likes of me?
Jesus shook his head and smiled.
Don't be scared,
he said.
God has given me a lot of work to do, and I need helpers like you and your friends. Once you fished for fish, but from now on, you'll be fishing for people and helping me to bring them to God.
Then Jesus stepped out of the boat and walked away across the shore.
Come with me,
he called. Peter and his friends saw him go. They looked at the fish. They looked at each other. And then they dropped their nets, left their boats behind, and raced off to follow Jesus. Wow, I hope that worked okay. That was a good story, wasn't it? So Peter was a good fisherman. He knew the fish weren't there until Jesus spoke the words. He knew it was a miracle, and so he followed Jesus, and that changed his life forever. Although we can't see Jesus today, Christians will tell you that they also follow Jesus, and it changes their lives forever. I want you to close your eyes for a moment and think about the miracle that Peter and the fishermen saw. Imagine how amazed they were at what Jesus had done. I'm going to say a prayer now, and if you want to make it your prayer, you can say Amen at the end with me. Dear God, Thank you that Peter had friends to call on when he needed help with all those fish. Thank you too that Jesus needed friends like Peter to help him tell other people all about you. Please help each of us to be a good friend too. Amen.
Amen.
So a big thank you to Jim and Mrs. McFarlane for being in Open the Book today. And a big thank you to Ella as well for making those lovely fish that Peter had. Can you hold them up for us, please, Peter? Just so we can see those amazing fish. Thank you very much, Ella. That's fantastic. And I look forward to seeing you next week in our next Open the Book story.